are rolling.
No music.
I'm about to have music. Hold on. I'm about to have. There we go. Do you hear that? Dion?
Yeah.
My audio is not great. It's not cutting in and out for you. It's good.
No, it's good.
This is called daydreaming. Okay.
Daydreaming.
That's what we're doing. We're daydreaming here on Snap Tackle Pod. A new layout. We're getting fancier-ish here.
Yeah.
I'm Mick for KSHB 41. He's Dion, Clisso, and PrepsKC. Pull it down a little bit.
Yeah. It's not bad music to start. We'll find something. We'll keep that in the mix.
That's something.
It's a candidate.
We'll bring our own music in here eventually. Hey there, welcome to Snap Tackle Pod. This is it. We've been daydreaming of the playoffs all year long, and we are 1 week away, Dion. It always sneaks up on us, always comes too fast. This year, again, can't believe we're here already.
Yes, next Friday is Halloween, and that'll be the first round of the playoffs, and almost everyone will play. There'll be some buys out there on the Missouri side. Yeah. Kansas side.
I love when Halloween lands on a Friday. Great student section shots.
Well, that's what I was going to say. For you TV guys, it's like your Christmas. I mean, you get to go out and you shoot like 10 seconds of game action and 45 seconds to a minute and a half of crowd action, and that's what's going to be it. But no, this week's a good week. We got a pretty good closing week of games. I mean, especially on the Kansas side in 4A, 5A, and 6A, nothing's locked in. I mean, Eudora looks pretty good in 4A as the one. They still got to play Ottawa. You know, Washington looks pretty good as the one in 5A, but they've still got to play Highland Park and Lathe West. You know, they've got to Lathe Northwest this week. So, you know, you could be, you know, stepping on the field as a 6 seed and stepping off the field, waking up the next morning as a 10, or vice versa, depending on how it shakes out.
It's wild, especially on the Missouri side, where no one always really knows exactly how the points are going to shake out. Kansas, you know, it's all wins and losses, and if you're tied there, look at the points. You can figure it out. Even like grade schoolers can probably figure it out.
The head-to-head, they have the head-to-head. We've had this discussion every year. Is head-to-head is not a tiebreaker?
If there's two, if it's just two teams.
But if there's 3 teams, it's points, right?
Yeah, points. Yeah.
They still have the average points because that was a COVID thing when everybody wasn't playing the same amount of games. And there's still some games. There's still some teams out there that. What
Highland Park had to forfeit a couple or one, I think.
But I think in some smaller classes, I just know this because of the voting in the rankings, like a Scott City and somebody else got started with a game and the weather came through and they were just like acted like it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like it never happened.
Well, that's another thing I was going to bring up. And we've had great weather this year. A couple weeks ago, we had the rain come in for some people. Yeah. Some games got moved back. But for the most part, it has been, at worst sweater weather. And then most of the time it's short sleeves and shorts.
Yeah, there's a few games that moved up to 6 last week and they got in fine. And then some other ones, mostly on the north side, it felt like they got some lightning delays. I know that at Platte County and Ruskin, they stopped after halftime. It was 70-6 at that point. So they figured it was probably better just not even wait out a delay there. And I know I think there was maybe 8 or 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Park Hill, right back. It was 21-0 Park Hill. And they just, after a second delay, they just went ahead and called that one too. I know there's some weather this week. I haven't gone too deep. I know Kearney, as of this taping, Kearney has moved their game to Thursday.
Yeah.
So
why'd they do that?
Rain, I think the weather. It's them in Excelsior Springs. Adrian on the southern tip of the viewing area. They're playing at Cole Camp, which is the lake, basically. They went to Thursday too. I think Cole Camp has turf, but if they don't, and you're expecting even if no storms, you're expecting the deluge, you don't want to tear your field up for 3 weeks. Yeah. Playing in the rain. So I'm not sure about that. We'll see what happens because a lot of times it's like a snow day. One game moves, then others will start to move too. That's what happened last week. And there's I don't know, 9-10 games that got moved to like 6 or 6:30 last week. Yeah. And all of them got done in plenty of time. And as I was told by some people out there that they would take the 6 o'clock start time every day. That's 6 o'clock start time.
I don't hate it.
It gets done a little earlier. Get you out of there. And that, like I said, for the most part, the games like Blue Springs was one of them. It didn't really start raining here 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that. I mean, later than that. So we didn't get it really that much here. I know that down south they got some pretty good, and up north too. It was a kind of a funny line right along I-35.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to last week's games. Blue Springs South, Blue Springs, one of the bigger games, the rivalry every single year. Now you have two of the better teams in the metro area, but one of those teams stamped that, hey, we might be the best team in the metro area, and that was Blue Springs South.
Pretty impressive, and Blue Springs had their moments, but South was very impressive. They struggled with their snap a little bit. They had a backup center in there, but really, see Aiden Wilhelm with that touchdown pass to Gary Hill, and they were pretty dominant. It was 28-0 at the half, and ended up being 35-7. So this was really a chance that Blue Springs South showed, even with some players down. They were really dominant again. There's Darius Morgan going in for a touchdown, and I was impressed. Blue Springs got to Aiden Wilhelm a little bit more than anybody else has. There's a lot of their outstanding defensive line that they have, but no, he got sacked a few times. So that's one of those things that Blue Springs defense can take heart in, but they still, like I said, 28-0 and then 35-7 when it was all said and done. So it's I think you can see that South is continuing to play well. They've got Lisa West this week. Blue Springs has got a tough game this week with Liberty North, a much improved Liberty North team playing its best football with a win over Rockhurst. So yeah, they just keep answering the bell. I mean, I don't know, what else they can do around here. They'll get a chance probably to see Blue Springs again in a district game, probably a semifinal. The way the brackets look right now, I think that Blue Springs is the second best team in that district. No disrespect to City Elias, who's 8-0. I just don't think they play the same teams. Or Columbia Hickman having their best season in, I don't know, maybe 2 decades when they won the state championship back in 2004. But that league. They formed a league. All those teams out there used to be independent. Elias, Hickman, Rockbridge, Battle, Jeff City, Sedalia, Smith Cotton. Well, when Capital City opened, the new Jeff City High School opened, they formed a league. I think it's great for them to have a league to play each other, but it's not the strongest of leagues. It's not the Suburban Gold or even the Suburban Red that Blue Springs South, Liberty North play in. Liberty plays in that red with North Kansas City and Park Hill, those teams. So I like the level of competition that the Kansas City schools have seen this year, and so I think that it's probably going to be a Blue Springs South district final, but we'll have to see how that shakes out.
Rockhurst falling to Liberty North. Surprising score to me. I thought Rockhurst was the better team there, but I mean, you're looking at a Hawkless team that's 1 2-point conversion away in overtime, right? From beating, that beat Aquinas, but that play away from losing 3 in a row.
Yeah. And I just think it says the depth that you've got of teams here in the Metro, Class 5 and Class 6 on the Missouri side. And Rockhurst District is the heavyweight in that Class 5 with Platte County and Fort Osage and St. Pius. An improved Winnetonka team is in there as well. And then Green Valley in that other district, along with a Raytown team that had been playing well, but now lost 2 in a row. And then you see all the teams in Class 6 in Missouri that, Lee Summit North, Blue Springs South, Liberty North is playing a lot better. Lee Summit is getting healthy. The second Hatfield came back and they played him at quarterback, and they've gone from the straight Wildcat to being able to throw the ball a little bit more with Carson Feeney taking some direct snaps back there as well. So they figured out something offensively that can make them go. They've got Lee Summit North this week, which should be a good one. So there's just, I think week in, week out, there's a lot of teams that really tests all these teams every week. You've got to be ready to go. So, I mean, like I said, Blue Springs has got a good one with Liberty North this week. And so there's not to mention what maybe one of the best games, North Kansas City and Liberty.
Yeah.
Two teams with 1 loss each, and Liberty's lost to Blue Springs South, who's undefeated, and North Kansas City's lost to Kearney, who's undefeated. So 2 teams in the Northland who are in different districts wouldn't see each other until the quarterfinals. But they definitely, Liberty's got that district locked down as the number 1 seed, where North Kansas City's pretty close over Summit North, but they definitely want to keep it going and play well in this one.
We'll talk about that game in a little bit here. Stay on the Missouri side. Chrisman, a nice win. You mentioned Raytown losing. That was to Chrisman, and the Bears getting good with. They're 3-5. They got a couple close losses to where that record could be easily flipped.
Yeah, Coach Terry McCrae came over, and he was the coach at Imagine Renaissance It's a charter school that was open 2009, 2010, 2011. And at one time, he got a postseason win over Pembroke Hill, I think. Really good coach. Was at Northeast for a while, probably the best Northeast has been while he was there. And then he's been assistant at William Chrisman, took over for Michael Rose Ivy. And that's Chrisman and Truman with multiple wins this year. And, that says a lot that those programs are improving. And that's a really good win for Chrisman to be Raytown. That's a Raytown team that had hammered Truman the week before or a couple weeks before. And so they're definitely that's a good win for Coach McCray and his staff.
Over on the Kansas side, DeSoto with a nice bounce back win over after losing to Leavenworth. Nice bounce back win over Blue Valley Southwest, kind of a 59-33. I feel like these two teams always play shootouts against each other. But on the other side, you got a Southwest team that's staring at an 0-8 record if they don't get it done against Blue Valley Northwest this year. This weekend, we were talking earlier in the year, close losses for Southwest against Blue Valley, against Miege, are right there against Blue Valley North. But it feels like it's kind of things have fallen off the table these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I got down 33-0 in that game against DeSoto, and they kind of scored with them after that point, but actually kind of outscored them from that point on. But no, they've struggled. I think that I'm not sure what the quarterback situation was. It was Coach Orrick's son. I'm not sure if he's hurt. And then Dylan Dunn, the name should be familiar. Everybody, Simone Award winner.
Yeah.
I'm assuming little brother is the quarterback. He's a sophomore, so they're going through some changes there, and they've battled injuries. Another tailback, I don't want to butcher his name, Angel Clueo, I think that's how you say his name. Oh. He was hurt earlier in the year, and he's come back. So Southwest has battled some injuries and trying to get things going, and you don't want to be suffering injuries and being beat up in the EKL because there's no weeks off. Their non-com was Blair Oaks in Missouri.
Yeah,
the defending Class 3 champion,
tough one,
who's the number one in Class 2. And if you wanted to take them and put them in the Class 2 bracket, they will win it. If you want to put them in the Class 3 bracket where they were last year, they probably win it.
Yeah.
And I think they'd do some damage in the Class 4 bracket if they wanted to go up and play that.
Yeah.
So that's schedule a 2-year run. Well, you schedule one of the best teams in Missouri at any class if you're Blue Valley Southwest, and they couldn't even step out of conference. And outside of they draw DeSoto and Blair Oaks outside of conference.
Yeah. Over on the Kansas side last week, one of your Remax Big 3 games of the week was Eudora and Tongi. What happened in that one?
Did not disappoint. 21-17 in that game, and really back and forth most of the night, and Eudora pulled away. And this was just exactly what you thought it would be. Tough physical game. Both these teams are going to make noise in 4A. Like I said, Tongi's the younger team. We talked about that last week, where Eudora's a little more veteran. And this was basically, last score wins, and that's what happened. And just an outstanding win for Eudora. They really played great all season. They lost to Topeka Hayden in week 1, which does not look like it's not a bad loss at all.
No.
And they've come closer to Topeka Hayden than a lot of schools have. So no, and then Tongi, Tongi's got a couple losses out there, but they really are a team that's gotten better as the year's gone on, and Coach Preston Troyer's done a great job with that group. And it, like I said, it's Frontier League football, very, very similar programs, very similar circumstances, even though they may do things differently offensively and defensively. But tough, hard-nosed teams want to run the ball and be physical and on defense, and just a great Frontier League game. I'm sure whoever went to that game was thoroughly entertained, even if you're on the losing end.
Absolutely. Any other games from last week that stood out? Kansas or Missouri side?
Hats off to Shawnee Mission East. They lost their quarterback Jack Reeves in the first play of the game, and I don't know the backup quarterback. He came in and they had it to 28-31 against Olathe West, and Olathe West made some plays down the stretch. They scored. They got an interception and scored to make it 37-28, and then they got another interception late to seal the game away. And that's a Shawnee Mission East team don't know the status of Reeves for this week, but they showed a lot of grit in a game where it would have been real easy to have your 1,000-yard, 19-touchdown quarterback, sitting on the sidelines to go, well, it's not our night, and pack it in, and they made it competitive all night long.
All right, let's look ahead this week. Remax Big 3 games of the week. On the Kansas side is Blue Valley West and St. James. Without looking at things, I feel like it's kind of So it's St. James probably second in the EKL, Blue Valley West, kind of middle of the pack there.
Yeah.
The bottom a little bit,
This one's interesting for both teams as they get ready to go into the playoffs because, like I said, St. James sitting in 2 in the EKL and Blue Valley West.
St. James' only loss is that early one to Aquinas.
Where they led in the second half for a short amount of time, but they did lead in the second half. No, they played great last week against Capon. They were up 38-35 and blocked a field goal at the end.
Wow.
I encourage you to search out their broadcast and listen to one Mary Claire Zacharias.
Was she doing play-by-play, or was she doing?
She was they kind of do. They have. I need to listen to it more because you know how it is on a Friday night. You're tuning in, tuning out.
And maybe at the high school level, they haven't designated, "Hey, you're doing this." And I'm doing that.
I think she did sideline, but they have her and the other. I think Boyd. I need to go look up their names because everyone involved in that broadcast is doing a great job. They all deserve to be, but she called that. She's like, I think they can get a block here, like they did earlier this season. Totally called the block field goal that got St. James that win. And no, it's a great broadcast. In fact, I had checked in earlier in the season. And I was like, wow, that's really well done. And then about 3 weeks later, Cole Young was doing kind of every once in a while he gets on our Twitter and just kind of, if you're following us on Twitter, alerts people of things. And he texted me, he's like, hey, that St. James broadcast is legit. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're really good. In fact, I showed the clip to my wife, and after watching, I don't know who was doing the color and Peacock for the Iowa game on Saturday, but he went to Michigan, and so he was not that he needed to be pro Iowa, but he definitely wasn't pro Iowa by any means. And she's like, he's better. She's better than they're better than the broadcast for Iowa on Saturday night. So yeah, hats off to that. And like I said, Mary Claire Zacharias, that's her name, and just a sophomore at St. James. And who knows, maybe if we ever have a guest, we can have her on to come talk football because she definitely knows what she's talking about.
Maybe our first ever guest. Yes. I like that there. Over stay on the Kansas side, we have Olathe West and Olathe Northwest, which is at Seaback, which is at Olathe Northwest, but I believe Northwest is the visiting team for this one, correct?
Yeah.
And these are the top. These are 1 and 3 on the east side in Kansas 6A. Olathe West, Olathe Northwest, both great seasons so far.
And this is, I talked to Coach Clark about this game, and he's like, we're sitting in the 3 because we lose that game, we could be, 7 real quick. And Olathe West can go from 1 to, maybe 4 or 5.
They can go to 5, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about, because the points are the 2 lost points. They're only 21 points ahead of
I don't know if they can drop all the way to 5, but it's crazy in 6A. You could be if Olathe West loses, the number 1 seed is gonna have a 6-2 record.
Yeah.
Whereas like another division, like in 5A, you're gonna have the best 6-2 team be like a 7 seed. There's a lot of undefeated and 1-loss teams down there, so it's been Wild West in the 6A bracket this year.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if a team that's on the bottom end there, Blue Valley West or Shawnee Mission South, can win 3 or 4 games and get deep. Blue Valley West probably has a little bit better resume, even though they have a 1 less win than say Shawnee Mission South. Blue Valley Northwest is a dangerous team, but they are very beat up on the line right now, and they're struggling to kind of get things going there, and they've lost several players to injury, but they're a dangerous team, and it's
man, I didn't know Lawrence is winless.
Lawrence is winless. Shawnee Mission North got them last week, and I don't know if they can beat the 1 seed, especially if it's Olathe West or even it's a Gardner or Olathe Northwest, but Lawrence has got athletes. That's a dangerous team. It's kind of like Blue Valley Southwest and
I'm surprised they're winless.
And they've got Free State this week, so
yeah, that's a big game. Olathe Northwest. It's going to be our game of the week, Ivy game of the week on KSHB 41. And you got Shawnee Mission Northwest and Shawnee Mission East. If you like the flex bone, this is your game.
Trey Woodward from Shawnee Mission Northwest, just a great physical, tough kid playing quarterback for that team. State placer as a wrestler, which I found that out this week, and I'm not stunned by that at all. Seeing highlights of him, I'm like, yeah, that guy's got that wrestler tough mentality to him, and really, Shawnee Mission Northwest has lost 3 games. And that's a team that could rip off 4 games in a row and be sitting.
Really could.
Yeah, they're all like that, and In China Mission East, like I said, we don't know Jack Reeves' status just yet, but the backup came in and played great. Now he has had a week, even if it's, he's had a week to kind of be in that spot. And so their team, they know each other pretty well, and like they run similar stuff. So scout team isn't quite as hard this week as it is for other people sometimes. But no, it's just another matchup of two teams that are looking to position themselves. And if you're China Mission East, you're sitting 4. You could drop to 8 real easy because Latham North is down there at 4-3 as well. And so I don't know. I'm just going to wait until they put the bracket out, and they're going to tell me what it is, and then I'm going to type it up. I'm going to put it up.
Yeah, Kansas is easy to figure out.
Yeah,
this is the Missouri side. We got the Remax Big 3 games of the week on the Missouri side. Harrisonville and Odessa. We're down in Class 3, correct?
4. Odessa is in Class 4 this year.
Odessa's in Class 4? Okay.
Yes, that was one of the more shocking situations this year. Was Odessa's up in Class 4. They're not in the same district. Odessa kind of goes to the center of the state with like Boonville and some people like that. Where Harrisonville's, Harrisonville's with
Hannibal.
Yeah, Hannibal.
Odessa's with a team on the Mississippi.
Yeah.
Okay.
The northern Mississippi in the state. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's don't get me started about how Lee Summit West and Ray Peck played a girls softball semifinal in Neosho yesterday, and then Ray Peck had to turn around and go play another softball championship game in Neosho today. So Misha doesn't necessarily sometimes their districts and how they do things.
Asia's in trouble with softball too.
I did see that last night. So that's a little bit of softball everywhere, but no. Odessa's a good team. They only lost to Mexico 5 weeks ago. Harrisonville's been playing good football. They got a loss to Clinton. They've got a loss to Cassville, and Cassville's a really good Class 3 team in Southwest Missouri. So, it's going to be one of those situations that these two teams, they know each other pretty well. Though Odessa has a new coach in Brett Jewell, who came over from Lutheran North. He was a defensive coordinator there. He said that their numbers are up this year, and he told me, he said, I don't know if we'll see that impact this year because they've got a lot of kids who are just new and out for football. So they're still kind of learning. And he goes, so a lot of those guys are getting JV time because they were pretty brought back a lot of starters anyway. So they're not, they're playing well. They've got some good wins the last few weeks, and it's for the MRVC West title, pretty much the winner of that's going to get that because especially because Odessa will run the table if they get it, and Harrisonville will have the tiebreak. Now, I don't know if the MRVC West is like the Suburban Conference, and if you tie with someone and you beat them head-to-head, you share the conference title. That's been going on in that conference for a long, long time. They don't use head-to-head to break ties. They hand out multiple conference champions. But, no, that's a fun game, and the two towns that know each other really well.
Liberty North Kansas City got 2 district leaders in this one. Who can absorb a loss more in this one and still be okay and win the district?
Liberty could have lost last week and this week and still be okay.
Still won? Okay.
Because they got beat Park Hill head-to-head, and they got a 2-game lead on Park Hill right now. So all they had to do is match them, and they're locked in as number 1. North Kansas City, Coach Joyner said he's not an expert in this. He said somebody told him that they're a game ahead of Lee Summit North, and he said that the understanding he had is that they would have to lose their game. Lee Summit North would have to win their game, and then everybody on Lee Summit North's schedule would have to win their game, and everybody on North Kansas City's schedule would have to lose their game. So because they've got about a 3-point lead, so they're pretty safe too. But I think for both these teams, this is a chance to get a good game in right before you go to districts, and they get a week off after this, and that will help them, kind of heal up and get ready, and knowing that if they're going to come out of, past their district through a quarterfinal, there's a really good chance if they come out of their district, they may see this team again in the quarterfinals. Yeah.
All right. Last but not least here, St. Pius continues finishes off its world tour of all states and all classes and everything. They're taking on Savannah, Class 4 Savannah now.
Yeah, ranked number 2, undefeated.
Yeah, in Class 5, St. Pius. I guess we'll get a good measuring stick here of, how good of a Class 5 team is St. Pius.
Well, Savannah's coming off a 42-6 win over Maryville. And that's a good win for them, and that's a rivalry game. And they are a really good football team. And talked to Coach Simone a few weeks ago, and we were just talking schedule and generalities, and so he kept they kept Savannah on. That's the only Mid-Atlantic Empire team that they kept on there. And he said, that's in line with what we want to do. They're not going to play each other next year because Excelsior Springs is coming to the Mid-Atlantic Empire, so that's going to fill that spot for Savannah because they've already got some other non-cons already set up. But if St. Pius were to go down to Class 4 next year, they could all be in a district with Kearney and Savannah, St. Pius, and Smithville.
Wow.
So that those matchups between Savannah and St. Pius may not be going away that quickly if everything kind of does what I don't know if St. Pius would go down next year if they didn't win a district this year, because they still have state championship runs that are still in their resume, I guess is how you would say it for the multiplier. So I'm not sure if they would go down next year, but there's a possibility that they would at some point would go down to Class 4 and be in that same district, which I don't know how you wouldn't have Pius, Savannah, Smithville, and Kearney in the same district.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to send somebody to Hannibal, I don't know.
Yeah.
Send Savannah to Hannibal.
Savannah, by the way, has given up 54 points.
Yeah.
All season.
And their offense,
less than 7 points per game.
Yeah, their offense is outstanding too. They had their quarterback went down on the 5th play of the game. Aiden Connectahoffer, that was one of my favorite games. And they had a sophomore step in, Corey Schlick, and he has almost 1,000 yards rushing, and it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. He's playing some D-back for him now. He's running the ball. He's playing a little bit of quarterback, and they're able to spot him in, and he basically made a big impact for that Savannah team when they lost a guy in Connectahoffer who was one of the better quarterbacks coming back in Class 4, and that shows the depth that they've got at that school and what they've done since Anthony Hayes has gotten there and taken over and really made that program from top to bottom, middle school, little league, all kind of doing the same thing, that one town approach. And Savannah's Savannah's had some stretches where they've been really good. I mean, when we first started PrepsKC, they were a questionable call, at least I could see on a web stream in 2010. Questionable call and a ball not bouncing their way of knocking off a Webb City team that had won 2 or 3 in a row and would go on to win a Class 4 state title. And so they've got the players, they've got a good football town, and they've got a good team, and this is going to be a great game. And both coaches really like and respect each other. And like Coach Hayes said, he goes, because I would have kept Pius on that schedule. He goes, we had no problem with that. He goes, but with Excelsior coming to the league, they lost one of their non-cons this year. So when that filled that spot there.
All right, our Platte County Appreciation Minute here. They won 70-6 last week. It's been not tough schedule throughout the season for Platte County, but another 70 points put up last week. Another at halftime, right? Yeah, basically. Yes. And Rocco Marriott, who I saw got a offer from UCF, I want to say.
Yes, UCF. I couldn't remember the other days. Yeah, UCF.
Yeah, coming from West Virginia as well. We'll see if he honors the commitment to James Madison. Yeah, whose ridiculous season continues. They are 8-0, taking on Raytown at Raytown this next week. Good luck to the Blue Jays in that one. And so that'll lead us to the stats leaders. Yes. All the big awards, including the McCarthy Elite Team. And we'll go to passing here. You go to PrepsKC.com. You got them updated here on the Kansas and Missouri side. They're separated. Marriott has 2,272 yards in 8 games, 80% completion percentage, and 36 touchdowns. So he's finally a tick under 300 yards per game.
Yeah,
but he's throwing 4.5 touchdowns per game.
And that's basically playing 2 quarters at best.
Yeah.
Played in the second half against Washburn Rural. Maybe Grain Valley. I'd have to really kind of get a snap count on it.
The first 2 rounds of the playoffs aren't probably going to be much different than the regular season.
No, for them, they'll get the bye. They've got that pretty well locked up, but they in the second round of the playoffs, Platte County would get maybe Pius.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Right now it's Winnetonka is the 4 seed and Pius is the 5 seed. And unless, if Pius gets a win over Savannah, they're 3 points back. Who's Winnetonka got this week? It's always who's in front of you and who are they playing?
Yeah.
To try and figure out. And Well, Winnetonka's got Smithville this week, so that could switch that spot there and move Pius up. That's as far as they would go, though. I think I don't think they can go any further. I don't think they have enough juice to catch Fort Osage to get in that 2-3 game with Rockers, but we'll see. I don't know. That's one place that you got a less than 3-point swing between three different teams that you could see, with the right wins and a plus 13 here and a minus 13 there. You could see maybe a switch like that, but it's going to be. I think that 4-5 game is going to be Tonka and Pius. So that's who Platte County get in that second round.
On the we got receiving side here. Dante Dixon, a name out of Park Hill we don't talk about enough. Over 100 yards receiving per game.
Yeah, he was on the elite team last year as a defensive back, and is really, he's had games where he's had pick sixes and got 100 yards plus receiving with a couple touchdowns. A couple games ago, he had three. They scored three or four touchdowns, and he had 3 of them. One of them on defense, and he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. And he's played more offense this year. And then they spot him in on big plays. If you're a quarterback and you've been throwing pretty well against Park Hill, you made some plays against Park Hill. Well, guess what? When it's big time flat in the game, you're going to go there and Dante Dixon's going to be locked up against your best receiver. So that's got to be an intimidating look because he's really good in coverage. Does everything really. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's a ball hawk. He can go get it, which makes I like guys that can do that because a lot of times you see receivers even at the NFL level who don't go get the ball. They'll get themselves open and the ball's in the air, so it's going to hit. It's going to come to me. And the really good receivers are the ones who, even if it's a half step towards the ball, or they make sure that they're meeting the ball. And he's a guy like that. Sam Krasowski from
Krasowski, he's over 100 yards a game at Lake the West.
And he's a guy like that. That's really Cameron Fields is a guy that is over 100 yards a game, sometimes 200 yards a game. There's some outstanding receivers this year, and I mean, Shawnee Heights got a couple guys that are maybe going to finish with over 1,000 yards. And they keep playing, so it's a deep group at receiver. We're not talking about a Gary Hill at Blue Springs South or Height. I think his name at Blue Springs, who are outstanding players, and a lot of receivers this year. And when it's all said and done, I'm curious to see where we are in terms of 1,000-yard receivers, because that's always a stat that at the high school level stands out to me.
Sure.
And I can remember just 10 years ago in the Simone Awards for the Otis Taylor, you ended up with, one guy, a kid from Blue Springs, who he ended up with 1,000 yards and he won the award and he had a great season, but there just was nobody else out there who had those kind of numbers. But I'm looking at Fields.
Or two, most likely at least.
Yeah, 2 at least.
Field. It just depends on some of these guys, how far they go in the playoffs.
I mean, I would say if you look at the Kansas side, Krasowski, Gallegos, and Fields have got a really good chance of getting there. On the Missouri side, Dixon, Hensel, and Fenwick from St. Joe Central. But here's the thing: St. Joe Central and Park Hill South throw the ball a ton. The one thing that's only holding Jackson Whitaker back is that Amari Powell's on his team, and they've combined for almost 1,500 yards. That's
funny.
So that's kind of the way it is there. But the stat leaders this week, and pretty impressive. For a lot of these guys, what they've done.
On the rushing side, Sire Padilla of Gardner Edwards has had a nice season. We talk about Gardner being down, losing a couple games. How dare they, right? But he's averaging 230 yards per game.
Yeah.
Cal Arndt missed last game, you were telling me, correct? And so he's at 218 right there. But Padilla's got 23 touchdowns, Dion.
No, it's going to be interesting how those two finish out the rest of the way because – Art got nicked up a little bit with his ankle, still played the second half against Rockers, even, at whatever percentage he was. And as I talk with Alan Terrell from Blue Valley, is that he goes, this isn't a slight on other people, but 40% of Cal Arndt is better than 90% of a lot of guys in the Metro that you're going to play against. And we'll see. I'm not, I think it's probably let's give him a week off of that. He played through it against Rockhurst, and let's give that ankle just a week to settle down and get stronger. And I don't know if he'll play this week, but I think it's Kansas. They'll play somebody in 5A in round one. I mean, even though they're probably the 3 seed.
And then Jack Reeves, a quarterback, is third in Kansas on the Kansas side in rushing. And I don't know if it was a bigger mover up the charts this week than the guy, I believe in fifth place here, Max Piva of Mill Valley, the backup running back. Reggie Reese, the starter's out. Max ran for 440 yards last week. So he basically went from 1,800 to 1,200 yards in one Friday night.
Yeah, that'll do it. 400 yards will move you up a list pretty quick. That game right there against an Olathe Northwest defense that had not been giving up a lot of yards and stuff like that. I mean, that's a pretty solid defense. And Mill Valley, as Coach Clark said, he goes, we saw what Olathe West did to them, and we figured we were going to be able to do the same thing. Of course, he goes, they adjusted, stopped us. He goes, we didn't do a very good job at adjusting to their adjustments, and that was a good win for Mill Valley. And give Cole credit in our picks, because when we were picking, and I was like, I think Olathe Northwest is gonna get them. And he goes, I don't remember the last time Mill Valley's lost 3 games in a row. I think I'm gonna go with Mill Valley. They lost 3 games in a season. So
in a season, yeah. I can tell you when, but yeah. Absolutely. All right. What else before we get out of here?
I think that's it. We'll have brackets. The 5A brackets come out pretty.
When will you get them up? That night, Friday night?
Usually Friday night I get the Kansas ones up. Saturday is the Misha doesn't put their brackets out.
KSHB doesn't always have them up right away. A lot of times it's just left up to sites like yours.
And there has been a Friday night that they had them up, and we woke up on Saturday morning and they were different. So
I remember that year. Yeah.
That has happened, but I appreciate the work they do. It's when you're trying to get all those right and make sure you get all the tiebreakers and those kind of things. The 3-way ties, when you're just going by record, you start diving deep into the different tiebreakers. It can get complicated. But now it's usually Friday into Saturday will be a big thing, and get those up and ready to go, and we'll tweet those out and we'll have them on our site. And it should be an interesting run to see where things shake out bracket-wise, because, that Washington, possibly Blue Valley Southwest game right out of the box could be one. And I'm not saying that Washington can't, it's just a spot for them. They've earned that number 1 seed, and they're a good team.
They got to beat Highland Park team.
They got to beat Highland Park. Is pretty good. So they got to get there. And
although they still, I guess, could end up, depending on what Baser does, they could still end up losing and being the 1 seed.
But I think that Washington team is. I want to see them against some teams outside of their league, because the Savion Stone and those guys, they're playing fantastic football, and they look the part of a 5A team. They really have done the work in the weight room to make that program better, and you can see the fruits of their labor this year.
All right, that's our music here, playing us out like a DJ.
I think that's your next job.
Makes sense. It doesn't seem hard. What do you do as a DJ? You start the next song before the current song ends. Is it any harder than that?
I'll tell Nick McCabe said that. He's a DJ business on the side.
There's no other science to it at all. All right, thanks for your time. Thanks to you for watching and listening. Enjoy your games last week of the regular season on Friday or Thursday or maybe Saturday. We'll see. Tune in to KSHB for Under the Lights.
Under the Lights.
I had to pause there.
You're not on that show. Why would you know what it's called?
Dion's on the show. And check all your scores, your halftime, all the stuff on PrepsKC.com. We'll see you next time.